Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video on the Gooners and Gloves Podcast channel. In today's video, it's going to be the 95th Gooners and Gloves Podcast, and I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts and reactions to the Oleksandr Usyk versus Daniel Dubois fight. Literally just got finished watching it about sort of 10-15 minutes ago, so I'm going to give you guys my initial thoughts, my initial reactions having just watched the fight, and oh my goodness, what a performance by Oleksandr Usyk. Once again, Oleksandr Usyk just continues to defy belief. I've honestly run out of words to describe how good Oleksandr Usyk is. And honestly, in my opinion, this might be controversial, but in my opinion, he's the best boxer in the world right now. Pound for pound, I just think he's the best. Truly, I can't think of anybody in boxing that has a better resume, and honestly, I just think he's the best. So I'm gonna throw that out there. It might be controversial, some might disagree with me, but I honestly just do believe that Oleksandr Usyk is the best boxer in the world right now. He becomes 24-0 and is now once again the undisputed heavyweight champion. Won it the first time and he's won it again. He's now an overall 3-time undisputed champion, having of course also done it in the cruiserweight division. His resume is absolutely unbelievable, and once again he continues to defy belief. He beats Daniel Dubois for a second time, and honestly, in my personal opinion, he's the best boxer in the world. So yeah, an explosive finish. So my prediction was half correct because I did get Usyk winning correct. However, I thought Usyk would win by points. We know that Usyk is very much a points fighter. He likes to go to distance. However, fair play to him. He got a very explosive, a very conclusive knockout. Fair play to him. Absolute just hellacious knockout, brilliant punches landed. To be fair, Daniel Dubois had his moments of success. He did put some pressure on at points and he did land a few shots of his own, but Oleksandr Usyk was just a class above tonight and was able to get the victory. So in terms of how the fight started, I thought the first round was actually kind of even. Obviously both kind of just felt each other out. You could tell that Daniel Dubois was trying to put the pressure on and was trying to make it difficult, but Oleksandr Usyk just knew exactly what to do. Like ultimately Usyk just was so comfortable, so calm in there. Even when Daniel Dubois was pressing forward, Usyk just knew what to do. His counterpunching tonight was on another level. Like, it's one of the best counterpunching displays I've ever seen. Like, first of all, that counter left cross was absolutely picture perfect. He landed it several times and it was a hellacious shot throughout the night. Like throughout I think it was 5 rounds in the end. Throughout the 5 rounds, Usyk just landing that counter, like that counter left cross so well. Like, that counter left cross was an absolute problem and it hurt Dubois multiple times. And of course, it's what led to the ultimate knockout, was just that absolutely devastating counter left cross. And seriously, like, Oleksandr Usyk has such a good left cross, and we saw it tonight. He landed it several times, and to be fair, in like rounds 2, 3, etc., like some of these rounds, I thought that Dubois actually started quite well, and he was pressing forward, he was putting on good pressure, etc. But Oleksandr Usyk would just come up with absolute bombs that would, in my opinion, just win in the round. And obviously, as you can imagine, I had him ahead on the scorecards heading into the ultimate final round of the fight. So yeah, but honestly, it's just those counter shots were so good from Usyk, and in some of these rounds, Daniel Dubois had started well and was having a little bit of success, but then those absolutely hellacious shots that Usyk was landing, in my opinion, just did enough to swing him the round, because as much as Daniel Dubois was putting on pressure and doing stuff, he wasn't really landing that many shots in those exchanges. And so as a result of that, when Usyk landed those massive punches, he was able to kind of win the round and obviously get the eyes of the judges. And for that reason, that's one thing I thought he did really well. But yeah, that's one of the main things that I think Usyk did so well, was that counter left cross. It was absolutely devastating. Not only that, but also the right hook as well. The right hook was absolutely on point for Usyk tonight. Of course, the right jab as well, the right hand jab with obviously the lead hand, that was really all good from Usyk. The movement was fantastic. Honestly, the fact that Usyk can be that quick and that nimble at 38 years old is incredible to me. And especially when you remember that ultimately, as much as he's been in the heavyweight division for several years, remember, he's not a natural heavyweight. He started out as a cruiserweight. That's where he used to fight. He had to move up to heavyweight. So the fact that he had to, bulk on and put on so much weight and is obviously 38 years old, but is still able to do what he does, is really, really impressive. In terms of Daniel Dubois, as I said, I did feel he had some moments of success. He pressed forward a good amount of times. He did definitely put a bit of pressure on, but Usyk was just absolutely a class above tonight. And Usyk just knows how to make full use of the fact that he's a southpaw. And another thing Usyk did absolutely fantastically, which really threw Daniel Dubois off his game, was the head movement. Obviously, at multiple points, Dubois loaded up very heavy punches, which, if they'd have landed, could have caused some real damage, but Usyk just did so well to evade them at the last second and come back with a massive punch. And obviously, when you counter punches and do your own punch, the punch is so much more powerful, and we saw that tonight, because obviously, when Usyk was dipping down to counter the punch, he was able to charge up all of the weight, like all of his body weight, his legs, everything. He was able to charge and therefore land ferocious punches. And honestly, people don't realize Usyk might be, a slightly smaller heavyweight, but he still punches hard. Like, Oleksandr Usyk is a heavy puncher. Let's not forget, he had Joshua hurt, he had Tyson Fury hurt. Like, he's a very, very heavy puncher. That's one thing we do need to remember. Like, he's not some light puncher. He can really crack, and we saw that again tonight. It's a knockout of Daniel Dubois. The first shots that led to the initial knockdown, he landed perfectly on the equilibrium, and obviously when you get hit on the equilibrium, your brain shakes. It's really hard to get up, and you could tell from that moment that Daniel Dubois wasn't comfortable anymore, and you kind of knew that the end was inevitable. Getting hit in the temple is just so hard to recover from. That's the thing. It's really, really difficult to recover from being hit in the temple, and ultimately that's exactly what happened to Daniel Dubois. He got hit with a really good shot to the temple, wasn't quite able to recover, understandably, because obviously his brain got shaken and everything. And then from there, Oleksandr Usyk dips down, lands an absolutely hellacious left cross. So I feel like I've said that word a lot, but he just lands an absolutely explosive left counter left, absolutely brutal. Obviously dips down, gets the left, and absolutely just lands it flush, and it was game over. The gum shield completely came out from Dubois, and it was clear that it was over, and yeah, that was it. But listen, ultimately Dubois still young. In my opinion, he can still bounce back from this. End of the day, he's not, he's only 27, he's still got many years ahead of him, so I do think Dubois will bounce back from this, and it'll be a good learning experience. But ultimately, Oleksandr Usyk is just a class above, and in my personal opinion, the best boxer in the world, truly, and of course the best heavyweight in the world. So yeah, absolutely unbelievable. As I said, Daniel Dubois did have some moments of success. He did land some shots, and as I said, those shots that he did load up on, had they landed, they would have been very impactful. But Oleksandr Usyk is just an absolute craftsman, and he was able to dip down at the very last second, charge up all of the power for the counter punch, and then come through. And as I said before, he landed that absolutely ferocious left hand that ultimately knocked Dubois out. He dipped down, put all of his power into it, and then came across with the left hand and absolutely just dropped Dubois, and Dubois of course was unable to get up, and as a result the fight was obviously stopped. So yeah, Oleksandr Usyk, the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. The question is, does he go on? Does he retire? Who knows? If he retires, he's already one of the greatest of all time. Does Oleksandr Usyk carry on? Does he have the Tyson Fury trilogy? Honestly, who knows? It's going to be very, very interesting to see what Oleksandr Usyk does, and of course also what Daniel Dubois does next, because clearly I don't think this will be the end of Dubois. End of the day, it's a learning experience for him, and he is only 27 years old, so in my opinion he still has many years ahead of him. And, losing twice to Oleksandr Usyk is nothing to be ashamed of. End of the day, Oleksandr Usyk is just too good. He beat Tyson Fury twice. He beat Anthony Joshua twice. He's now beat Dubois twice. He's just too good. So, going to be very interesting to see what they both do next. Obviously, for Daniel Dubois, it's going to have to be on the comeback trail and very much a rebuild. And he's going to have to really go back and, have a bit of a rebuild, get a few wins under his belt. So, it's going to be interesting to see what he does. And then, of course, it's going to be very interesting to see what Oleksandr Usyk does. Does he call it a career? Does he carry on? Whatever he does, he truly is one of the greatest of all time. This man is just so good. He's got, one of the best resumes in boxing history. He's fought so many tough names, and in spite of all of that, he's still unbeaten, 24-0, and he could very well carry on. So absolutely unbelievable fighter. But listen, credit to Daniel Dubois as well. He tried his best in there, and as I said, he did have some moments of success, and he could definitely build on that. But ultimately, Oleksandr Usyk was just a class above. We just have to be real with it. Oleksandr Usyk was just too good tonight. Those combinations, the head movement, everything was just on point for Usyk tonight, and you could tell what the plan was. Kind of survive the initial pressure, use your movement, and ultimately when Dubois loads up, counter with brutal punches. And clearly Oleksandr Usyk's team made sure that not only was he countering, but he was putting as much power in those counter punches as he could, and that's exactly what he did, because these weren't just your usual counter punches which land but aren't that powerful. No, he loaded these up. Like when he dipped down or when he slipped, etc., he made sure to load up every single bit of power he had and throw just the most ferocious punches, and it worked. The first one was on the temple, knocked Dubois down, and then of course the second one was an absolutely brutal punch that knocked his gum shield completely out and obviously, floored him. So yeah, honestly a really enjoyable fight though, genuinely a good fight in terms of the quality. Obviously both really threw a lot of punches. They definitely tried their best in there, and obviously it was also just nice to get a stoppage, because ultimately throughout the whole night there weren't really too many. There was obviously the corner stoppage in the first fight, but aside from that it was mainly decisions and stuff. So it was nice to see a bit more of an explosive, ferocious fight, because at the end of the day the main event is obviously what you enjoy. So yeah, obviously commiserations to Daniel Dubois, but Oleksandr Usyk was just a class above tonight. So as I said before, it's prediction half correct. So I did get Oleksandr Usyk winning correct. However, I said he'd win by points, but he actually won by knockout. So of course I did get that bit wrong. But all in all, a really enjoyable night of boxing, a really good main event, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they both do next. Obviously for Daniel Dubois, it's going to be a rebuild. He's going to have to try and come back from this. And in Oleksandr Usyk's case, the world really is his oyster. He could carry on. He could retire. It's fully up to him. It'll be very interesting to see what happens on that. Do we get the Tyson Fury trilogy? As a crazy shout, do we get the Anthony Joshua trilogy? Who knows? It's going to be very interesting. maybe one day we could get, I wouldn't imagine we'll get a trilogy of this one because obviously he's won twice, but look, let's just see what happens. But I can't really speculate on what Usyk will do next. He may retire. I know there were talks of him doing the trilogy with Tyson Fury, which I'm guessing he's still going to try and go for, so we'll see what happens. But ultimately, whatever Usyk does, he's an absolute legend and truly one of the best fighters of all time, and in my personal opinion, the best fighter in the world today, in my opinion, the best boxer, in the world today, and also in the heavyweight division. But as mentioned before, Daniel Dubois will come back from this, I'm sure. End of the day, he's only 27 years old. He's definitely not anywhere near done. Like, he's got many years left, and to be 27 years old and I've already fought at Wembley twice in the main event is truly incredible. So yeah, I'm sure Daniel Dubois will come back from this. It's of course going to take a bit of a rebuild, but we'll see what happens. But anyway, that's going to go on and do it for this video. So all in all, the key things that Usyk did well were his movement. So his movement around the ring, his head movement, his counter punches, his left cross, and his right hook. Those are the key things that he did well. Of course, the right jab as well, and ultimately just the combination punching. Not only that, but his composure. He was very calm. He was very relaxed. End of the day, he just, when Daniel Dubois was coming forward, Usyk just stayed calm, stayed patient, and ultimately was able to withstand that initial pressure as I initially predicted would happen. Obviously, Daniel Dubois had a few good moments of pressure, landed a few shots, but ultimately just, came forward quite a lot, overcommitted with his punches, which resulted in Usyk countering them, and ultimately, it is what it is. But it's a learning experience for him. He's only 27, and I'm sure he'll bounce back. But anyway, that's going to go and do it for this podcast. I don't want to ramble on too much longer. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please let me know down below what you thought of the fight and what you thought of the whole card. The fights were pretty decent. Some of them were a bit slow, but all in all, the fights were decent and it was an okay night of boxing. But the main event was certainly very, very enjoyable. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. Have a great day. Please let me know down below. Do you agree with me? Do you agree that Oleksandr Usyk is the best boxer in the world, or do you feel it's someone else? Honestly, maybe I'm just being reactionary, but I do truly just feel that with everything that he's done, that he can be classed as the best in the world in my opinion. But obviously, some might disagree with that. But anyway, that's going to go and do it for this podcast. Thank you guys so much for all the support recently. I always say it, and that's because you guys truly do mean the world to me. Thank you for all the support that you give me. Thank you for all the subscribers, the likes, etc. It means the absolute world to me, and it really just motivates me to try and make the best podcast that I can. End of the day, I love Arsenal, I love boxing, and I just enjoy watching the stuff. So plenty more stuff to come. Obviously, there's still some more Arsenal player announcements that we're awaiting. Of course, there's going to be the Arsenal preseason game starting next week, which I'll be covering on the channel, hopefully, depending on obviously my schedule and stuff. But hopefully I can cover some of those games on the channel in terms of podcasts. But anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. Have a great day. Please let me know down below what you thought of the Oleksandr Usyk Dubois fight. Where do you think Dubois goes from here? Where do you think Oleksandr Usyk goes from here? And ultimately what you thought of the fight. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. Have a great day, and I'll catch you guys on another podcast soon. Bye bye.